All right, David of Ragamuffins fame. Thanks for joining me for a bit of a chat.
How you doing?
Yeah, good mate, very good. So obviously, as everyone could see from your background, you're a Liverpool fan. I'm a Liverpool fan. So we should probably start with the obvious. Title win. How do you feel about it? How was it after all these
Great.
years?
I mean, I suppose underwhelming in a sense because of how it happened. I mean,
Yeah,
I wasn't watching the City game initially, and then I got started getting messages through from people going, "Yeah, Chelsea are playing quite well." And, City have missed a few chances, and then Chelsea obviously scored. Was it just before half time? And I was
yeah,
like, "Oh well,
yeah.
should really put that bottle of champagne in the fridge."
Well, and
No,
exactly. I'd almost sort of not forgotten about it, but me and my girlfriend were watching it first half, like you said. I was like, actually, this is. I didn't want to jinx it, but then I think
yeah.
half time was it 1-1 half time? I think
No, Chelsea were 1-0 up at half
it was
time, I
1
think.
half time. So,
Then because it was the De Bruyne free kick, wasn't
of course, yeah.
it? He equalised, and then obviously Chelsea got the penalty, and yeah.
But yeah, I did pop and I went and got a bottle of champagne at half time. Which thankfully, as I say, didn't jinx it. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it's not. It's a shame, isn't it, the way it's happened with the situation we're in. But I mean, to me, I mean, we're so obviously you can see from the kit we're just talking about in your background. I mean, we're similar ages, same sort of generation. I mean,
Yeah,
I did it. I'm not sure I can remember the last time we won the league. I'm 34. So
yeah,
I mean, I honestly, it doesn't. I don't. It doesn't matter to me. We could have won it in any
yeah.
way.
I mean, to be honest, I think in the darkest points of like kind of lockdown, I think people were like, you know what, if they just go, yeah, have the title now. I was just like, that I'll take it because there's no way we're going to be caught. I
No.
think the moment when we knew that was done was the United game at home.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I mean, the just the elation all over. I mean, we were playing at Anfield after the game, and it was one of the best atmospheres of a gig I've ever done. Just
Yeah.
people dancing, doing. We just I mean, we just started doing some scar stuff because people were just like laughing and dancing, and
Yeah.
even the bouncers had no control. But when in a club or a gig or anything, and the people have no control over it, but they'll
But
normally
it's
like
happy. It's happy sort of.
you
It's
see
happy.
that look of fear. You see that look of fear
Yeah.
and like angst in the bouncers' eyes. None of that. None of
No,
that. They were all just like everyone was having a ball.
yeah.
And I think that was the moment. I mean, because I think that put us 18 or 19 clear.
Yeah, and it's weird because again, talking about our generation, and I've just been, even when we've had some decent moments, I've just been so trained mentally to expect something to go wrong, especially against United. Any United, doesn't matter if
Yeah,
they've dropped off. Because I've been, you're the amount of times I've seen United going back, like Ferdinand's last minute winner, and all these times that they've done us over, and you just so yeah, I think you're right, particularly because it was United as well, and
yeah,
obviously. I know no one wanted to say it, but we were getting to the point where we were that far clear that it was
yeah.
it was on.
But it was just yeah. I mean, I think I mean I like the fact that Palace game was a kind of statement win as well. So
Yeah,
obviously there was the Everton draw, and people were trying to go, oh, they couldn't, could they? And it was like, and it
yeah.
was like, no, they definitely won't.
I
And
know. I
just
mean, how do you feel about obviously as we're recording this, we lost to Arsenal the other night.
yeah,
Again, I'll be honest, mate. I could not give a flying fuck, really.
no, no,
And we've lost the points total, but I mean, that's the level that we're at. Do you know what I mean? We're
yeah. Well,
disappointed.
the other thing is when I mean, and this isn't I mean, I can understand why City fans would be sort of crowing because in the same way that Arsenal fans were crowing when we
Yeah,
got beat by Watford, that's what football kind of frivolities are all about. And it's like if you've got a mark in the same way we've got 6 European Cups and 19 leagues, and there's only United who can top that in terms of leagues. So it's like you crow about what you can crow about, and City have got a points total there that might never be beaten. I think we've probably been the closest. We'll be the closest for a long time that get anywhere near it. But saying that, if next season's starting very very quickly afterwards, and
mm,
Klopp's going, well, you'd effectively be if we were gonna hit that points total, we'd be needing to effectively play what would it be? A 46 game season.
Yeah.
A 46 game season, and then your Champions League games. God knows what's going to happen with that next season. Possibly a League Cup. Eventually, there's going to be an FA Cup to throw in there.
Yeah.
And you're thinking that if he's planning, I was just thinking, if he's planning for a team to peak at some point, then you can't do that. You can't have your team running at the levels we've been running at and doing this when we've won the league.
Yeah.
It's over. I mean, City have got something to play for. They've got an FA Cup game this weekend and the final, and they've got the Champions League to play for, and that's. I mean, obviously Real Madrid have just won their league, so they're going to be, tails up and everything. So that game is no way of a foregone conclusion.
No. But again, I mean, the fact it's funny, isn't it? Because this happened with under Rafa, didn't it? Because we were getting better and better, and then the better we get, the more everyone expects. I mean, the fact we're even having this conversation about not getting to 100 points. I mean, like 6 years ago, whatever, 7, 8 years ago, we would have. I mean, so.
Yeah, you'd have taken winning it with 75 points or something. Yeah,
exactly. And also, I mean, City they are playing really well, and they have got stuff to play for. But again, it's like, well, but they've turned it on now after lockdown, and league-wise, after the event, they didn't. If they'd done that, when they lost 6, 7, 8 games, I think, or 6, 7, 8. So,
Well, I thought they'd lost 9 altogether. They've lost 9, because there's obviously lost to us, lost to Man United home and away, Chelsea away. Obviously, they just lost to Southampton.
Yeah.
Did they lose to Palace or something?
I think so. Yeah.
It's like so and even then we've lost 2 games after lockdown. They've lost 2 games after lockdown.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like okay. I mean, when they beat a team, I've not seen many teams that go at a team and can just score goal after goal after goal. It's like, I mean, the way that the Barca sort of 2010, 12, to that sort of era of Barca, they score so many late goals and turn like a 2-0 win into like a 6-0 win, and you just like, bloody hell, and you just look at you look at if you're looking at the results, it just looks.
I mean, I was looking at the table and the goal. Obviously, and we're so many points clear, which obviously is what matters. But I mean, their goal difference is incredible. But again, that doesn't win you the league, does it?
So's Wigan's. So's Wigan's after they won 8-0 the other day.
That's true. Yeah. So, because were you match going then over the last couple of years? Were you getting to most games or? I've been there for every game, pretty much every home game anyway. So have you missed that then? This obviously since the lockdown. I mean, obviously you have missed it, but how have you found it not going to the game and that the whole day around the match day?
In terms of since the football's come back.
I mean, during the whole thing, lockdown, and then when it's come back behind closed doors.
Well, there's like the whole routine, isn't there? And that's the thing you miss. Like you miss sort of the catch up with your mates. I mean, for the last couple of years, for the last year or so, obviously we play every match day now pretty much at Anfield. Yeah, which is I mean, it's more or less a dream job for me. Yeah, it's like, I mean, even though it's a bit of fun really, but it's just great to be there and kind of have that sort of thing going on every match day that we can. Yeah. So we'll kind of meet up with our band, kind of see all that, then kind of meet up with a couple of mates, kind of get to go in. But we've started playing after the games as well now. So it's. You can't sort of blow your voice singing for, which is harder than it sounds. It's it's just been a bit. It's been an intense sort of good 18 months now, because obviously we did all the C Senor related stuff and all the sort of promo off the back of that with like kind of various avenues, whether it was club related or something we'd done ourselves. I'd started playing for a soul band, like a kind of northern soul band as well, which was quite intense. And so there'd be days where you'd be doing like an Anfield thing, and then kind of heading up to Kendal to do a festival. There was one we did an event for the club for like a load of the youth team players. But when I say youth team, I mean like under 10s, under 11s, and everything.
Not Curtis Jones there,
no, not quite Curtis Jones, but not far off.
Yeah.
So and we did that just before Christmas, and they were going absolutely berserk. But it was sort of like we did that during the day, and then kind of headed up to Blackpool because the Soul Band were playing at the what's it called, the ballroom, the one under the tower.
Oh yeah,
which is like, you know, properly iconic Northern Soul venue and everything like that. And we weren't playing until about, I think we went on stage about 11:30. I was just absolutely goosed. I mean, nothing makes you knackered like seeing all these kids running around after, and they're obviously and I mean they're giving kids who are being trained to be professional athletes loads of sugar, going hey, having like a big sweet stand. I mean, bloody hell, it's like makes sort of like, you know, when you play in a club, so like loads of like people who've been on pills for ages, it makes just like that pales into comparison to that.
Yeah. So well, let's talk about the band then. So the Ragamuffins. I mean, so for people that maybe don't know, just give us a bit of background on the band. I mean, you guys have been together for a long time.
Ages. Yeah. A long time. Yeah. It's. I mean, it started out as sort of my baby initially, and it was kind of getting friends together. That we knew from kind of places like school and kind of playing football and being introduced to people, and like Jules, who was our original keyboard player, was a friend of a friend from the university, and kind of just all went like that. And then people started going their separate ways and traveling around. And then so back in about 2012, one of our big time supporters, Ed, he got in touch and said, "Yeah, I'm setting up this record label out of Huyton. We want to basically we want to put like some of your kind of songs out, because, you know, I've always been a fan. I know you've got loads and loads of stuff that you've been sitting on, and would you like to do like a live launch, and we'll basically put a band together." And initially it was like kind of Ed introduced me to some like mates of his, and they kind of played for a short while, and then I was like, well, this is quite good fun. And I'd always wanted to have a brass section in the band, and we just never got round to it because and Paul, who was our original bass player, played a bit of trumpet, which was hilarious. Whenever we'd be in a studio setting, he'd be doing an overdub, and he's a solid trumpet player, but it's not his first instrument, and so he'd almost have Tourette's. It was just like he'd be doing a take, and yeah, man. I mean, considering he used to do work in a school as well, I don't think he's staying there for long if you could hear him. I've never heard anyone swear in a studio as much as he used to. But
so tell us a bit about the C Senor single then. Obviously, and it was raising money for the food banks, obviously a great cause. So how did that sort of come about, and why did you sort of want to do it for?
Well, it was obviously. So we started doing this stuff at Anfield on the back. I mean, I'd always looked at it, and I didn't know the way that they kind of put bands on. I mean, obviously, you've got to name check the guy. The whole kind of idea of music around the club has changed with the Boss Night guys and Webster and Kieran and all those guys. I mean, they've completely changed that whole thing. I mean, there's always been an element of music in Liverpool. I mean, I don't know many clubs that have the same like repertoire of songs that Liverpool do.
No.
And which means that I don't think there's many clubs that could have the sort of link between music and performance and songs that there is. But I mean, I'd done a couple of bits and bobs. I think I did a couple for like Redmen TV previously before that kind of all started kicking off, and I'd done one I think I did one for the Anfield Rap, and did just an entire set of like our new album acoustically as part of this magazine show. And I was just thinking at the end, when I look back now, I was like, why didn't I just play a load of Liverpool songs? It's been great. But it's what it is, isn't it? But so I was filling in, playing piano in a bar in Manchester for a mate of mine on a Sunday. I just hear this like Scouse voice behind me. All right, I really like mate Dan, who plays as he's a guy called his artist name is Rosenbloom, Dan Ross, And he's moved over to Manchester with his girlfriend, and we were discussing what we were up to. I was like, became a dad 6 months ago, and he's like, oh, that'll be keeping you on your toes. And he's like, well, I've been doing a lot of work at Anfield as well as all this. I was like, oh, I'd love to do that. And he just gets on his phone, phones this agent up, who's a brilliant guy called Steve. And the next guy, I think it was the next game, which the first one we did was the Tottenham 2-1, when Vertonghen somehow scored an own goal right at the death.
Yeah.
Like I'm still convinced there was, people scatter their ashes in the Kop goal. I'm convinced a ghost grabbed his leg. This is a guy.
It's got Grobbelaar pissed on it, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's a combination of Grobbelaar, piss, and ghost.
And lots of ash,
that goal. I mean that's one for the record books, But so it's so we started doing that then, and we'd done most of the remaining games of the season, if not probably all of them. I think we missed the Chelsea one when Salah scored that, worldie from miles out. But we did the Barcelona game, and obviously the Barcelona home game, I think the majority of Reds, no one went in with any sort of expectation. It was hope rather than expectation. I bumped into this fella beforehand who obviously turned out to be Mark Kenny. And after the game, he was saying that he was going to be arranging something on the final, and if anyone was up for playing and getting involved. So I sent him a message. We just started talking, and he was saying, well, I'm looking at doing a single. So he sent me over his single, and it was good. And then I went, yeah, well, I did this as a demo to show the boys, like, an idea for a song relating to the chant that they'd started up for Si Senor.
Yeah.
And he was like, lad, I'm going to phone you. And then just said, that's amazing. We need to get that out now as a single. And we both kind of immediately said, well, let's do it for the food banks, because, it's a really pertinent charity, really pertinent cause. They're doing great work and they need the support. So we obviously got Ian Byrne and Dave Kelly involved really early on, recorded it. So I first spoke to Mark on the Tuesday, then properly spoke to him on the Friday. We were in a studio doing the recording on the Tuesday, and it was out by the following Friday. But I think the Sunday of the Wolves game was the first time. I know John Gibbo from the Anfield Rap said that Firmino's wife was dancing to us playing it.
Oh, really?
So she and I mean some of the stuff. And then obviously later on in the year, after the Club World Cup, she was posting a video of them at home, all their fans, dancing to the song with like the kind of with the record playing, which was just mind blowing. But all just, so it was just like all the kind of the fact that it got to like #1 in Japanese iTunes chart was ridiculous. We didn't even know about this because of all the other bits that were happening. We're doing all the kind of BBC interviews and playing live, and obviously having, as a fan, getting excited about the final.
Yeah.
It was
I saw something. It was on like Pakistan radio or something, wasn't it? And sort of thing.
Yeah. So it's like every time something like that happens, it's just like you just leave your phone for a bit, and then suddenly you get like about 500 notifications on your Twitter, and you just feel like, oh right, okay, yeah, great. So
how much money did it raise in the end?
Well, so far,
it's still going, I suppose.
Yeah, it's still going. I mean, it's a case. I mean, obviously, he's had a bit of a goal drought. So, I mean, he's I mean, come on, Bobby. There's like a bloody pandemic going on. We need a few. So,
it'll come good before the end of the season.
Yeah, of course he will. I mean, like I said, it's more or less a glorified pre-season now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah. So every time he scores, you see a noticeable jump in the kind of Spotify numbers, and it's sort of like. I think so far it's had, because we got $2,500 for the first kind of check we got through, and $3,000 earlier on this year. But obviously, the other thing is a lot of the kind of causes and like fan organisations around the world have all got on the back of this and made donations to the food banks. So as well as us doing it personally, there's been a lot of donations to the food banks because of the awareness that the songs raised. And so, I mean, I'm pretty proud of it.
Mate, that's brilliant.
I mean, it's actually, well, I mean, some of the ones like Mane playing it in the gym was like, that was a great one. And then obviously, I mean, the icing on the cake on that day of the final was Colin Murray playing it in the fan park. And then obviously it getting played after the game. And having all the players dancing to it. So
Next thing, mate, you need a little duet with Bobby on the piano. That's the.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've looked into this. I mean, the week we were recording it, and this will tie in neatly. This is the pro that I am in terms of podcast recording. in terms of the fashion, I know you've featured flannels on one of your blogs before, but I don't know whether you know our trumpet player Flo. He manages the flannels in Liverpool.
Does he?
So, yeah. So this is why I'm always so well dressed. No. But so he was anyway. When we said when we I pitched the idea to him to record, and he was like, "Oh, Firmino, oh yeah, he comes in our store all the time." And I was like, and he's like, "Yeah, and I've met him a few times." I was like, "Shut up." So what can you say? But yeah, he's not seen him since. So he obviously thinks the song's crap. But no.
Before we get on to the fashion stuff, then. So obviously, that the food bag, that's just great that what you've done there. But what else is happening with the band in terms of, where are you at the moment in terms of what's next releases or obviously gigs I guess are off the table at the moment clearly, but
yeah. Well, it's been a weird situation for the last probably since became a dad, because this sounds really kind of like blasé, but we are a bit like a super group in a sense, because everyone in the band plays in their own band, and some of the guys do. I mean, Tom Fripp, who's our guitarist, he plays in. He's literally a gun for hire. He's played for. There was a big thing over in Manchester that he played for, like a big citywide sing along with Tim Booth doing Sit Down. Liam Gallagher did a version of Wonderwall, and obviously, me and Tom do kind of bar gigs every now and again, and the number of times, obviously, when over the years as a musician, when people go, "Oh, can you play Wonderwall, lad?" and there he is, playing Wonderwall for Liam Gallagher now. So he does stuff like that. I mean, George, who plays violin on our records and kind of helps us out on bass, he's played for New Order in the last couple of years, the synth orchestra. Alex does loads of different things. Will played Glastonbury with one of his other bands. So it's like everyone kind of plays in different kind of units. I mean, Sam's got two bands. He's got a band called Catholic Guilt and a band called X-Men B Team, who play all over the place. And everyone kind of comes back together and plays with this. I think Flo plays for Prowsey as well in Liverpool. So he was getting badgered by Elvis Costello at Prowsey's gig last year and having a beer with him backstage. So and considering we've got about 2 or 3 songs that mention Elvis Costello, he's like, "This is Elvis, isn't it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is, mate." And he's like sending me selfies at 11:30 at night. So we all do that. And obviously, come together to do our own stuff.
Well, I was going to ask you, because obviously, I mean, a few years ago, obviously, I sort of was in a bit of promotion and involved in some bands and stuff. And what occurred to me quite a lot was when I was working with bands is that, making it as such or having longevity or whatever is so dependent. Obviously, it's dependent on the quality, but it's trying to get 4 adults or 5 adults or whatever to keep doing the same thing for years and years, with different priorities, work, studying, kids, whatever. It's so difficult. So I suppose, is that why you managed to sort of do that with the Ragamuffins? Is you've almost been it's been your baby, but you've got people in, not a Pied Piper, but like you say, is that why?
I suppose in many sense. I mean, it was never the intention to do that with the band, but it's the way Kevin Parker does it with Tame Impala, or what's he called, Adam? I forget I can never pronounce his second name because it's not even his real name. He's like, why would you give yourself an unpronounceable stage name? But from War on Drugs, Grand Duo, but so it's that idea is a really good one, but I think that for them, I suppose it might have been slightly different for War on Drugs, but I think it was that was the idea from the outset, and it was they kind of had the songs and did that, but it sort of evolved into that for us. So I've been the principal songwriter and kind of arranger of the stuff, and then it'll be get your mates together and kind of go out and play. Obviously, the sort of Liverpool stuff has been interesting because it's meant that we've had gig work more or less every week or
Yeah.
at least every other week. But you know, with obviously other, it's like we've had like little bits of gig work like constantly for the last 18 months, which sort of changes the dynamic a little bit. So we've kind of constantly been together, and even though people, I mean, okay, if people have been going off to do festival work, that's during the summer when there's no games or anything. So it kind of changed. It's been a kind of different sort of dynamic for our band than it's ever been. So we've always had like idea, which has been quite good from you know, from a perspective of having songs like coming to us and being able to go, well, what about this for an idea and this. So yeah, it's been good to keep on top of. But during lockdown, it's been, I don't know how I've managed to do anything really, because it has been a case of our Catherine's been going out to work, and I've been looking after our little one. He's only, well, she's 18 months now. So,
Yeah.
but it's sort of whenever she goes to sleep, I can like kind of put some guitar on and do some stuff in the little studio we've got set up here. So
Yeah, you've been doing like some sort of live streams and stuff, haven't you, and bits and pieces like that.
Yeah. I mean, but even then, I mean, we've done some kind of like isolation street like recordings, which have turned out really well. We did one for Janice Long on BBC Wales. We did one for Anfield Index, which went really well. Although the downside was I was, you know, this is the perils of sort of Zoom calls, and I was changing a nappy next door in our bathroom, and the phone goes off, and Catherine just like brings the phone in, not realizing it was a voice like kind of Zoom call, and there's Eddie and the other guys on the Anfield Index and Jan Molby and Steve McMahon all watching me from my phone changing a nappy. So Jesus Christ! So even then, I mean, so you just kind of, I suppose that any sort of veneer of sort of show business just kind of gets taken away a little bit.
If any good things come out of this whole situation, I suppose that people have got some good stories about Zoom calls and nappy changing and stuff, haven't they? But cool. All right. So yeah, let's get on to well, I'll say fashion. I mean, it's mainly feet. That sounds weird. Trainers. Let's talk trainers. Obviously, both. So both massive trainer fans, largely Adidas. So let's start with how many pairs of trainers have you got?
Well, I've had to trim it down quite a lot. I was probably up to about 60 or 70 altogether, and it was just like, and it wasn't like a financial thing or anything. I was just like, it's just the space and sort of the other thing was I felt like, I just started feeling really greedy about it, and just having an issue like that. I mean, you know, if you buy a couple of pairs a year, then you start looking at, but you're keeping them in pristine condition and kind of nice, and then you're kind of getting a pair that you wear all the time and kind of you destroy. You start, it doesn't take long until you look back and go, Jesus Christ, I've got about 30 pairs, and then you're like, oh yeah. So, but the thing, I mean, you see some people selling trainers for silly money online, and I was just like, I can't do. I don't want to rip. So I sold a couple on like marketplaces and things like that. You know, like Facebook Marketplace, and there was one pair of like black Beckenbauers with like an orange stripe, and there was a fellow who kind of came over from Accrington who'd seen them online, and he was like, he was welling up because he's like, oh, I've got like 20 pairs of Beckenbauers. They're my favourite trainer. I've never seen this pair, and he was absolutely, and he's like, how much do you want for them? And I could have said like 500 quid, and he'd probably give it. And I was like, I think I just sold them for like 50 quid because I only bought them for 30. Right? And it's like, I know it sounds daft, but when I was going through a lot of the trainers to sell, I was remembering like, well, I remember wearing them on like a night out here when this happened. I remember wearing them. I mean, not being daft, there's a pair of Forest Hills I've got upstairs, which I remember I wore them the first time I kind of like got off with my wife. And like, because you know, and I should have said that. Well, I should, but yes, the word. I mean, I think the only reason I remember that it was them was because we were playing over in Austria, a festival, so I had to like wake up the next morning and get on a plane, and just not had a chance to change them. So that whole week I had this pair of really rare sort of cream Forest Hills with like red stripes, like burgundy stripes, and well, they are really nice, but they just got destroyed that week in Austria in like the snow and everything. So yeah,
It's a weird one. I mean, I'm not at that level. I'm probably around, I don't know, 30ish, maybe something like that. And it is odd. I mean, I know what you mean. I love them, but it's all. I think I've got to that level where I'm sort of thinking all the special stuff, and you get sucked into it. And I've sort of realized some of the ones I wear the most and I like the most are actually. I mean, not. But I've got a couple of pairs of LA that I just love, and they're just good
yeah,
day in day out trainers. And I'm thinking of maybe selling it some, but like at the same time, there's some I just don't wear anymore. But then when I do think to sell them, I'm like, oh, you know, I don't know. I've got a pair of Milanos that I don't wear, but then I'm not sure I could actually part with them. And is it all more or less Adidas, or have you dipped your toe in any?
No, I've got quite a few. I like quite a few New Balance ones. There's a pair of New Balance I've absolutely worn to death, like during this lockdown. It's like what are they called? My mind's just gone. But they're like US made ones, and I got them from Hannon. Give me a free plug, Hannon. So yeah, I got yeah. So I got them from Hannon a couple of years ago, and then funnily enough, a couple of months later, I went up to Aberdeen for a mate of mine's wedding up there, which was bloody hell cold, and it was the only time I've ever seen anyone wearing the same pair. So it must be like not Hannon exclusive, but it must be one of the few places in the UK that distributed them. Yeah, they were great. They've taken a bit of a battering during this.
So
I've got them and a couple of Nikes as well, like Internationalists, a couple of like Vortex pairs that I like. But it's sort of like the Nike pairs I like are the ones that look a bit like this sort of Adidas ZX series.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I'm in my mid to late 30s now, so it's like I don't think I can really pull off a pair like 110s and everything like that. It's like I'm just not gonna. They're just not gonna work.
Yeah, so, I'm the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like fair play. If it was like 18, I'd be all over that sort. But no, it's not gonna. You know, but I mean, I think you know they've got to be like. I mean, something like Lacombs, the ones that they brought out for the special ones, they're brilliant.
I love them. Yeah, I've got three pairs.
Yeah, I've won them with suits on a wedding because it just looks great. It's just
They're class trained. So what have you got a favourite pair or pairs? Have you got like a top?
So yeah, I mean that pair of Forest Hills I love. You know, obviously for the memories and everything. Like you know, that's quite my favourite design is probably the Gazelle OG.
Yeah.
Just love it. It's just incredibly simple. I must have had like 10 different pairs of the black ones with the gold lettering, and just the shape, the fit. This brilliant pair of trainers. And there's a pair of there's a couple of pairs that I've got, and they look amazing, but when you wear them, you just like not really. But I can't, like you say, I just feel like I can't really sell them. There's a pair of Milan that I got with, I think it's like a Slam Jam collaboration pair, and they were like green with like, they're kind of like bluey sort of turquoise with green stripes, and they look amazing. These like the burn colorway or something, but they're like really, really nice, and I've just I very rarely wear them because they look a bit garish, but the actual trainers look amazing when they're not being worn. So
yeah, I know what you mean. So how did you? We'll have a little bit of a chat about Liverpool as a city to sort of end things. But how did you get into trainers? Did it start with the love of Liverpool and just the culture that is around that and the football and stuff?
Yeah, you know what? I'd always liked them. I remember we went on a school trip, like an exchange over to Germany back. I mean, this sounds like a Transalpino sort of crazy story when you're in the day. But we went over to Germany on a school trip back in 1999, and went to like one of the kind of Karstadt sport type things that there was then. And it's one of those, like, you know, kids from the northwest going over to Germany and being like, oh, look at all this stuff. Like, but I think I mainly bought a couple of football shirts. There's like there's one, you know, the kind of there was the old sort of silky shiny Real Madrid shirt that I bought then. But
Yeah.
I think I bought a pair or two of. I remember buying a pair of orange tiger black Nike things because I was only like 14, 15, and I was like, oh, look at these. And so, and I absolutely loved them. But I didn't really, you know, I didn't have any sort of knowledge of like the history of trainers, but I'd always been into them. And then I think it was a case of you just gradually, you see some of the thing, the kind of stories about everything that's happened, and then you start looking at the designs. And I mean, I love the idea of the sit. I mean, it's kind of things that ingrain in you. And in our family, I think everyone's sort of obsessed with collecting something. My dad had a heart attack a couple of years ago, and I'd like when he was waiting, he had to have the full sort of operation and everything. And when he was waiting for that, he'd always wanted to collect Scale Extra as a kid. He'd always wanted a Scale Extra kit. Obviously, you know, growing up in stuff, being born on Great Ormond Street and everything like that, and not having the best of upbringings, you know, never got the chance to do that. And I think he was just like, so he was like phoning us up, David, can you get me that Mercedes? And like, so there was a moment when, so I was at university at the time when he was waiting, when he was in recovery after the operation. I think he was in a cinema, and he kind of phoned up and was like, I was chatting to him about buying him this Mercedes, and there were these two girls, it was like me and a couple of our mates together, these two girls like listening to me going, yeah, I'll get you that Mercedes, don't worry, Dad. And I think, bloody hell, who's this flash bastard? So yeah.
Oh, you're muted, I think, mate. So I don't know if I muted you then, or you muted yourself.
No, I think it automatically muted me. And we'll take that. We'll take evasive action then. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think in our family, everyone's into collecting something. I mean, whether it's like records or guitars or so I just like. And then I think training just took over, and you know, I mean, like I said, like the kind of, it's quite an evocative idea, isn't it? All the sort of the city series that Adidas do. You know, when you do a lot of like traveling with playing music and everything, you go to like, if you go to like Copenhagen or somewhere like that, you think, oh, I should get a pair of Adidas Copenhagen, or going to stock. I mean, yeah. So I think it's just like that, really.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Adidas seem to get it right somehow, don't they? I've dabbled in other trainers, and in some ways I feel like maybe it's almost getting a bit too much now, isn't it, with the amount of releases and the people that are into them. But it's hard to sort of move yourself away from not every single one is a winner, but I think 8-9 times out of 10 what they produce is pretty decent. Cool. Right. Well, we'll finish off soon. Let's just have a bit of a chat about Liverpool as a city, because. So you're from Northwest, Blackburn way, is it originally?
Yeah. So I live over that way. But obviously, all our kind of family, but mum and dad from like dad was born sort of Great Ormond Street, and then moved out to like Sparrow Hall sort of way, because he's in his 70s now. My dad, mum was like sort of just down from Anfield, and
so are they both Liverpool fans then?
No, my dad's a Blue, believe it or not. He was he was at the 66 Cup final watching them when they beat Sheffield Wednesday. But he was also, he used to work in the Flatiron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he used to work in the Flatiron. He was in the year below Leonard Rossiter at school. He used to work in the Flatiron. He was at the 65 Inter Milan game. But like because I think we played Everton the year before, so he went to quite a lot of. But the reason my mum and dad met was because they were both working in Lucas on Long Lane. I think my mum had a ticket for a derby at Goodison that was being shown on screens at Anfield as well. And my dad had tickets for the Anfield game. My mum had for the Anfield screen, and my mum had tickets for the Goodison game. So and they ended up. My mum was like, well, I'd rather go to Anfield rather than being in the Everton end. So they swapped. they kind of just started, like, that's how they got in touch. So if it's one of those, it's like, it'd have been nice if my dad had been a Red, and it might have been easier sort of to get to more games as a youngster. But no, it was, so that's how they met.
So what was your first game? How did you first? So did you go to university in Liverpool then, or did?
No, I went to Newcastle. I was gonna go to Liverpool. It was either Liverpool or Nottingham or Newcastle, and because I was gonna do, I mean, it would have been quite useful if I'd have done what I was gonna do. I was gonna do pharmacology, so I could have been researching a fucking coronavirus cure, but in the end, I decided to do politics, which is obviously far more effective in fighting coronavirus.
Yeah, I did politics as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
now here we are on a Zoom call talking about trainers.
I mean, this is it. If I'd have combined the twin, like, power of politics and pharmacology, I could have been. I mean, I'd have been the go-to sort of talking head.
You're on the briefings, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'd have been. Yeah.
So obviously, your parents, Scousers. So what does the city sort of mean to you then? How is it kind of fed into what you've done with the band, and I mean, obviously the club, but what does it mean to you as a city, Liverpool?
I mean, I don't think. I always feel like I always feel a little bit disingenuous when I say, it feels like a home, because I think my mum, when my mum moved over here, because my dad, obviously the reason they were both there is why they came over to this sort of neck of the woods. But it was like, we'd go back all the time to see family, and it felt very familiar. So the places where they grew up, I was familiar with, and I could see it changing, so when I started playing music, it was like, it felt like it was the natural city to go to, because you're effectively given a choice, aren't you? You can either go to Manchester or you can go to Liverpool to play. And even though now the majority of our band probably live in Manchester, and and Manchester's, as the crow flies, nearer to get to and quicker to get to. So if we're doing, in terms of meeting up or in terms of using studio time, a lot of the time we'll play in we'll use like kind of Manchester facilities in that sense. But Liverpool is where we get the most reaction, not just because of the affiliations with the club. It's always been that case. I mean, even in the early days of the band, when we were first doing things at, like, places like Bumper, places like doing stuff at the Cavern, doing all that, we'd always get a bigger reaction playing in Liverpool than in Manchester. And I don't know whether that was the way that we'd play. I mean, when I look back a little bit, and I think when we were, because as someone who loves Northern Soul music, Northern Soul historically never really worked in Liverpool, whereas obviously you had the Twisted Wheel in Manchester and Wigan Casino and all those sort of little kind of like satellite towns around Manchester, and places like Stoke. You had loads of success with that sort of style of music. Never really took off in the same way in Liverpool, so weird. But I mean, I used to go. I started going to the match during university, which, when you live in Newcastle, is a bit ridiculous. To play away, I only got a 2-1. I might got a first if it'd been a Newcastle fan, I would have probably got a first, because I wouldn't have been missing time. But I used to go down. I mean, for midweek games, and especially in the last year, because obviously the last year of my university was Istanbul year. Yeah. So
I think that same here.
Yeah. So it was but it wasn't. It was like, if you were going down for a weekend, you'd make a weekend of it. You'd go to you'd go to a gig on the Friday. You go out in town after the game on the Saturday, and it's just so. I probably spent more time going out, apart from student nights out and things like that. I probably went out in Liverpool more than I did in Newcastle, just because of staying with friends from school, or friends that I knew in Liverpool during that time. So it was bizarre, really.
Yeah.
My mum was probably tearing her hair out and going, "What are you doing?"
Sorry. Right. Well, I'll let you go, mate. And my dog is now hungry, so he'll probably start kicking off. But so yeah, and before we go, anything to plug band wise or anything you're doing?
Yeah, well, obviously we're not going to be doing many gigs in the short term, but we've got quite a few releases coming up. We've just put out a compilation of all the BBC sessions we've done in the past sort of 8 years. So since the sort of the height and 7L Records days, we've done obviously loads of BBC sessions, whether it's for BBC Manchester, BBC Merseyside, Radio 2, Radio Wales, and all that. So we've put all that together, all the best ones, on a record which is out on our Bandcamp. We're going to be putting that out on Spotify and iTunes and everything. But one of the problems is our distributor aren't available at the minute. So we can distribute things ourselves through things like Bandcamp, but that can't get hold of them at the minute. So so it's a bit of a pain in the bum.
Is Bandcamp the best place to go at the moment then?
Yeah, we've got loads of merch on there, and we're going to be putting out a new record as well. So we've got one of our like most historical songs we've re-recorded. We're just going to that's going to be part of a kind of brand new EP that we've recorded like together but separately during lockdown. And then we're hoping we're gonna do like a follow-up sort of second half of that EP when we can all get back together, which would be quite a nice contrast. I'm always like of the idea that if you do a record, I think it should be a record literally of like where you are at a time. And it'd be nice to go and re-record everything and do it in a live way. But that's not how the songs came about, and that's not how we did it. So I think it'd be it's a bit more honest to say, it's obviously been all, in 20 years' time, it might be, it might be you wouldn't kind of think in the same way that we've been obviously forced to record at the minute. So I thought, that's the way to go.
Quite fitting. Lovely. All right, mate. Well, it's been really good to chat to you. Lovely to catch up. Take it easy. Thanks, mate.
Yeah. See you later.